HOA confrontation story. The most chilling sound I've ever heard wasn't a scream or a siren, it was my doorbell ringing at 2:17 a.m., followed by a booming voice shouting, "Police! Open the door now. You're under arrest." My heart stopped. But what came next was beyond anything I could have imagined. My HOA president, flanked by two neighbors in shoddy fake cop costumes, trying to drag me out of my own home over a fence color I'd triple-checked was approved. The chaos that unfolded made the evening news. But the real story? It's wilder than you'd believe. These wannabe cops picked the wrong person to mess with, and they paid for it. Stick with me, because this tale of petty tyranny and sweet justice will leave you speechless. It all started in 2023, in a quiet suburb of Raleigh, North Carolina. At 32, I just bought my first home, a modest two-bedroom I'd scraped and saved for over 8 years. I'm a cybersecurity analyst, so I'm wired to dig deep, leave no detail unchecked. When I decided to paint my fence, I wasn't about to wing it. I pored over the HOA's rulebook for weeks, cross-referencing every clause. The color I picked, cedar mist, 37 on their approved list, was a soft, earthy green. I visited 4 paint stores to match it perfectly, kept every receipt, and snapped photos of the color code, sensing I might need proof later. That weekend, I painted the fence with care, making sure every board was flawless under Raleigh's clear spring sky. Neighbors stopped by, raving about how sharp it looked. One even asked for the color name to use on her own fence. Standing back, admiring my work, I felt like I'd finally made Ida a real homeowner, living the dream. That dream shattered Monday morning. I was sipping coffee on my porch when Laura Bennett, our HOA president, stormed across the street, clipboard in hand, like she was about to issue a death penalty. Laura was infamous in our neighborhood of 30 homices, self-appointed dictator who thrived on control. Her gray hair was pulled into a bun so tight it seemed to tug at her scowl. She didn't bother with pleasantries. "This fence color is unacceptable," she snapped, her voice icy. "It's too vibrant and disrupts our community's aesthetic harmony." I blinked, stunned, and held up the HOA's printed guidelines, pointing to cedar mist, 37, clear as day. "Laura, it's on your approved list," I said, keeping my tone even despite the heat rising in my chest. She barely glanced at it, her lips curling into a smug grin. "Rules are subject to board discretion," she said, tapping her pen like a gavel. "I decide what fits this neighborhood." That moment hit me like a punch. This wasn't about the fancy, it was about power. Laura needed to dominate, and I'd somehow become her target. She launched into an impromptu inspection, whipping out a measuring tape like she was performing surgery. My mailbox was 3 inches too short. A single weed by my driveway was gross negligence. My recycling bin was 4 inches off the approved pickup zone. I knew I had to dig deeper. Using my cybersecurity skills, I uncovered Laura's past, and it was chilling. 5 years ago, she'd tanked a catering business in Georgia due to mismanagement and customer complaints about her controlling nature. Neighbors from her old Atlanta suburb had filed harassment claims, including a restraining order. She'd moved to Raleigh for a fresh start, but clearly, she'd brought her bully playbook with her. 3 days later, a certified letter arrived, a $1,450 fine for multiple violations, including the fence, mailbox, weed, and bin placement. It threatened $250 daily fines and a lien on my house if I didn't pay within 10 days. My stomach churned. This wasn't just harassment, it was financial warfare. I could have paid to make it go away, but that would have signaled I was weak. Instead, I called my cousin Ethan, a 38-year-old ex-Marine turned private security consultant. Ethan didn't mess around. "Don't pay a dime," he said, his voice steady but sharp. "We're dealing with a tyrant. I'm coming tomorrow." Laura didn't wait. She called an emergency HOA meeting, emailing all residents a presentation titled "Safeguarding Our Community's Standards." It featured photos of my house with red circles around my fence and weed, like I was a criminal mastermind. One slide warned that my violations would tank property values, complete with fake legal citations and charts. I sat in my kitchen, feeling like the neighborhood pariah, as Ethan arrived. Without a word, he grabbed his phone and staked out the community center, recording Laura's entire performance. He watched neighbors like Tom Reynolds, a shy retired teacher, and Sarah Mitchell, a gossipy single mom, not along to Laura's lies. Ethan wasn't just there to help, he was building a case. By morning, Ethan had a plan. He'd contacted a housing rights lawyer, filed complaints with the state HOA board, county housing authority, and attorney general, and requested an audit of the HOA's finances, suspecting Laura was skimming funds. He sent Laura daily certified letters citing state laws she'd violated, each one a surgical strike. Then he flipped the script, reserving the community center for a Know Your Rights workshop. He invited a real estate attorney, a housing official, and a civil rights advocate. 17 neighbors showed up, stunned to learn Laura's fines and rules were illegal. Tom admitted he'd paid $400 for unauthorized porch plants. Sarah confessed Laura threatened to report her late-night guests as suspicious activity. The room buzzed with anger and relief as neighbors realized they'd been played. Laura doubled down, hiring a shady PI to dig up dirt on us and spreading rumors that Ethan and I were troublemakers with criminal ties. But she was outmatched. Ethan's military record was spotless, and my digital paper trail was ironclad. Every lie she told, we countered with public records. Every threat, we recorded. Then came the night that changed everything. At 2:17 a.m., my doorbell erupted, followed by pounding fists and shouts of police. "You're under arrest." Groggy, I checked my security camera. 3 figures in cheap cop costumes stood on my porch. Laura, Tom, and Sarah. Their badges were crooked, their handcuffs plastic, their warrant a poorly printed mess with typos. Sarah faked radio calls with a broken walkie-talkie, spouting gibberish like, "Unit 12, we've got a code blue." Tom fumbled with toy cuffs, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Laura, in a too-tight security guard outfit, barked orders like a B-movie villain. I hit record and spoke through the intercom. "Can you show me your badge numbers and warrant?" Laura screamed. "We don't have to show you anything. You're under arrest for HOA violations." I almost laughed, but the situation felt dangerous. These people were unhinged. Then Ethan appeared, silent as a shadow, phone recording. "Evening, Laura," he said, his voice calm but lethal. "Care to explain these costumes and what you're doing at 2 a.m.? They froze. Ethan's questions were relentless. "Which department issued that badge? Why's your warrant on copy paper? Where'd you buy those toy cuffs?" Sarah cracked, stammering. "We just wanted to scare her into repainting." Tom blurted. "Laura made us do it." Laura clung to her lie, claiming it was a citizen's arrest, but Ethan shut her down, listing the felonies they'd committed: impersonating officers, attempted kidnapping, trespassing. Sirens wailed in the distance. Ethan had called real police. He offered them a way out: public confessions, HOA resignations, full refunds of illegal fines, restraining orders, and counseling. Refuse, and they'd face federal charges. Laura's face crumpled as reality hit. The police arrived, and the trio's fake cop charade collapsed. Neighbors gathered, watching Laura's empire crumble. She had to hand-deliver confession letters to every resident, admitting her crimes. Some slammed doors, others grilled her. Tom sold his house and fled. Sarah became a pariah. Laura's husband left her, her savings vanished to cover fines, and a viral news story: HOA president caught in fake cop scheme, made her infamous. Our neighborhood transformed. A new HOA board took over, property values soared 15%, and block parties became a regular thing. But 6 months later, at a barbecue by my cedar mist fence, an elderly neighbor, Mrs. Carter, dropped a bombshell. I knew Laura from her days in Florida. She pulled the same scam there. Ethan's digging confirmed it. Laura had a rap sheet across 5 states: fraud in Texas, impersonation in Arizona, harassment in Florida. The FBI got involved, building a case against her interstate crime spree. My fight had exposed a predator. I turned that pain into purpose, launching a blog and consultancy with Ethan to help HOA victims nationwide. Our site hit 80,000 monthly visitors, and we were booked solid helping families fight back. At our first Homeowner Rights Day, 250 people celebrated around my fence, now a symbol of resistance. Then an email arrived from Boise, Idaho. "Laura Bennett's in our neighborhood, targeting a 4,000-home development. Help us." Ethan and I packed our bags, ready to take her down again. That fence didn't just save my home, it sparked a movement. So, what would you do if a bully in a fake badge came for you? Would you open the door or fight like hell? Have you ever faced a neighbor who tried to control your life? Drop your story below, hit that like button, and subscribe. Yuri exposing tyrants one fence at a time.